Are you ready? Are you ready to be inspired by these two ladies? Awesome. Okay, so I know Karen and I know Aicha. I have worked with them. Aicha, most specifically, because she's been a longtime Intel employee, a rock star here. She is our chief strategy officer, or Intel's chief strategy officer. I still say our. That's okay. She's our chief strategy officer. She's the senior vice president. She's going to tell you a little bit about her journey here because it's a very interesting one. And Karen has been a friend for not as long, but a major supporter for us at Upward. She helped launch our Austin chapter. She was the sponsor for that event. She spoke at the event. She helped bring people in from Dell to the event. They are both amazing women. Karen is the chief customer officer at Dell Technologies, and she's been there for quite some time. I'm going to let her talk about her career journey as well. But I wanted to at least introduce the very high level, these two powerful women. Give them a big, big hand of applause. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start off asking some questions, probably for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up to you. We've got mics here standing, and we're also going to have folks on the team roaming with microphones to give to you so that we can capture a question on camera. We are taping this because we do put our content on the website, specifically the conversation on the panel, but we'd love to hear your question and have that available as well. So be ready for that in about 20 or so minutes. Have some questions that you're working on. But first, I'm going to let the ladies start off with a little bit about your journey, your inspiration, how you stayed with it, and kind of what you would suggest to the folks that are attending here on how to persevere, especially if you're in a corporate environment where it can be a little complicated. Aicha, you want to go first?
Okay. Hi, I'm Aicha Evans. First, I'm a wife and a mom. I have 2 kids. I've been at Intel for about 11 years, I think going on 12. I've stopped counting. I'm an engineer. I've been, I think my mom tells me, an engineer from the beginning. I like to build things. By the way, I like to cook too. It's the same actual principle. I hate to lose more than I love to win. So that's the first tip. I think resiliency is extremely important. I'm a learner. I entered Intel working on wireless and eventually led its wireless efforts until about 5 months ago. And now I'm dealing with the corporation. And little did I know that my little island was actually quite easy. Sheila, I know you're like, really? Yes. And so now it's nice to not be running all the time and to be thinking and to be treating the opportunities and the challenges of the corporation almost like a puzzle, and constantly asking myself, how? I tried this way, it didn't work. Okay, that's okay. Let's not get angry about it. Let's not get mad. Part of it is I'm not scoring somehow. I'm not finding a way. So why are people thinking the way they are thinking? And how else can I frame the problem or frame the opportunity? What examples can I give so people can visualize and see themselves in that? I was born in, I'm sure you've noticed a little bit of an accent. I've been trying to lose it, but at this point it's been 20 years. I don't think it's going anywhere. I was born in Senegal, West Africa, and then I grew up in Paris. From there, I moved to the States. Then I had a 2-year stint in Israel, and within the States, I've moved a few times. The reason I tell you this is because I think it forces you to be adaptable. It forces you to look at the environment you're in, and there is no other way. You can't really leave the environment. And so understanding and putting yourself in other people's shoes and how they view it. I mean, in my case, it's funny. Sometimes I'm at the supermarket and I say, thank you. And they go, where are you from? And I'm like, what do you mean where I'm from? It was just thank you. And I think it gives you vulnerability, it gives you generosity, and you're going to hear me come back. We cannot battle our way through this. It's just not going to work. We have to reach, we have to enlist. I love talking to our male counterparts about their daughters. And I often ask people, would you like your daughter to work here? Do you think she would do well? what do you think it would take for her to do well? It totally changes the conversation. So I think we have an awesome opportunity, and I hope we celebrate the journey. And again, for me, it's been resilience, it's been generosity, it's been adaptability, and then having a strong support system, both at home, at work, and outside of my normal. There are a lot of people in the industry who help me, and then making sure I give back. Today I was looking at my schedule and my office was like 20% of your time is going to one-on-one and coachings. And Melissa, yeah, I know you're looking at me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And that's going to continue because if not me, then who?
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, I agree with everything she said. Ditto, ditto, ditto. So I am Karen Quintos. I've been at Dell for 17 plus years. I am also mother of 3 and married for 31 years to an amazing husband.
Nice. Well
Yes,
done.
give it up to marriage is still an amazing thing. You just have to find the right person to marry.
And
and
train
it all
them.
works.
And train them too.
And train them. and yeah, and train them. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I came to Dell via Citibank and prior to that Merck. So I've been in kind of a unique career path in that I'm not a traditional kind of technology person. I've worked in multiple industries. I totally agree with everything that was said. I believe that at the age of 40, 42, 45, I don't know, give or take kind of 5 years on that spectrum, that you kind of move from spending all of your time trying to be successful to all of your time trying to be significant. And one of the huge benefits, I believe, in reaching the senior level status at a amazing company like Dell Technologies is it affords you a platform to talk about and influence those things that can really change the world. And that's one of the big pivot points that I have found over my career. Working hard, building a strong network, working for great companies, working for great bosses, being curious, continuing to reinvent yourself, I personally feel is even more important today than what it was when I was first starting. But then you reach this point where you go, so what else is next? And you reach kind of that C-suite status and you go, I got to do something to give back. I got to do something to pay it forward. I need to help those that have helped me. I need to help their daughters. And Lisa, I love what you've done with Upward, and it's a big reason that I'm super passionate about it. And every time I sit in the audience and listen to Lisa's story and what she's done, I think, God, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. So you're a great role model, and thank you for what you do.
You're awesome. Thank you. All right. Okay, so this topic for today is women's role in leadership and innovation. And so my question to both of you is, do women play a unique role in the advancement of technology and innovation in the business world? And if you think the answer is yes, what is it? And why are we not recognized and appreciated for our difference?
I think at so many levels, the answer to this is so simple, but it's incredibly complex. I look at what Intel and I look at what Dell has done to really progress the whole area of women in technology, and it's pretty basic. It really starts with a commitment from the top. It starts with leadership accountability. It starts with changing the culture. It starts with calling out the behaviors that need to be called out. And it starts, with investing in women in the pipeline and everything, and taking the bet on the women that are really, really talented, that can get to the next level and the next level and the next level. But we are up against decades and centuries of bias and thinking and just what people have defined as normal. I never thought I would ever say this, but I actually believe the media and the press are really helping. And I never thought I would say that because generally I don't think that's true. But they are putting a spotlight on the untold truth, the unspoken truth, the things that have been at the core of why women get tired and they opt out. We just recently completed some research with the help of 451 research out of Boston, and it's really staggering around. Most people think that women get tired and they just decide that they're going to quit and they're going to stay at home and and they're not doing that.
Like that's less tiring.
Yeah. They're not going to do it, right? They're not. I mean, women, I don't know about you, but I feel like women hit this like 40 or 50 years old and they have this renewed energy. They're, they've moved around, they want to do something different, they're inspired, they're motivated, they got the fire in their belly type of thing, and they hit different barriers that aren't going to allow, and so they're like, you know what, I'm going to start my own business. You know what, I'm going to go work for the public sector and I'm going to go do something meaningful. I'm going to change jobs, I'm going to change companies, I'm going to do those types of things. So I think at some level it's pretty basic. I'm encouraged by the progress that has been made. I think we have a long way to go, and I think organizations like Upward have a real catalyzing effect to really get the right conversations and the right momentum. Women helping each other is huge.
Yeah, great.
So first of all, let's just go to simple math. We're half the population. It kind of wouldn't be smart for half the population to not be enabled and productive. And so in this increasingly competitive environment, the research also shows that the more an economy grows and becomes productive, the less really children are born. And so just from a basic math standpoint, it would be kind of suicidal not to enable the women. I start there. Second thing is there are some natural human being built-in functions that we haven't been able to change that give us a special place in society. And I think that when we marry that with technology, research has shown that when you have more diverse teams, they think differently, they apply better solutions, they are more inclusive, they are more creative, and the business results come with that. Who in their right mind would say, I want less ideas? Most reasonable people, and I know there are a few who I call the cave, they are consistently and virtually against everything. Nothing we can do about those. But who in their right mind would say, I don't want more different ideas? So I think that part of how we market this, part of how we talk about this is also important, and not talk about it in terms of something we've owed, but in terms of what we bring to the table. In terms of the opportunity, it's important. I tell a lot of Silicon Valley friends, we don't do happy engineering for the sake of happy engineering. We actually do engineering and technology to solve problems, to advance humanity. And right now, there's a golden age. It's coming again. When you think about AI, I know you knew you were going to hear that term right now, right? Yeah. Okay, good. When you think about the machines are coming, there's a golden age again of automation coming on. And those are about solving problems, making things better or faster or more productive, or solving big medical issues and so on. So I think that we're reminding folks that the more the merrier, and also bringing people who traditionally haven't been part of the equation will, by definition, become a competitive advantage. So I think if we really laser focus on those things and make sure we have clean data to show the progress, it's going to be very important. The other thing is, there is a reality about support. I mean, I am grateful anytime I get support from our male counterparts. But what I really, I mean, the whole thing about there's a special place in hell for women who don't support each other, that's not on them. That's really on us, right? And paying attention. A lot of the time when we were talking about somebody earlier, and she was asking me, and I was like, well, I think this and this happened, but I said, we, the women of Intel, also missed a few cues that if we had dealt with, that person would still be here, and we mourn the fact that she's not here. So really paying attention to detail, and on a day-to-day basis. This is a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, meeting-to-meeting. You see somebody who's quiet, even though you know they are brilliant and they have great ideas, but maybe in the meeting when you're 1 or 2 of 10, it's intimidating. What are you personally doing to help draw them out, support them at that particular moment? When somebody's struggling or somebody's about to maybe go have a baby, we have to talk about the baby thing, right? What are you doing to share your... I can tell you, I was very angry about the baby thing. Nobody told me. And I deal with math. So I was like, statistics says this should not be a big deal. And by the way, I'm doing it in the United States of America, not in Africa. So it should be real good. I was in shock at how hard it is. I was then angry at all my girlfriends for not telling me. I mean, one told me about the cabbage in the freezer like a week later. I'm like, I could have used that like couple hours before. So let's talk about ourselves and what we're doing in this situation. I think that that's very important.
Can I give you another story? Because I was actually literally just talking to someone about this earlier today about having children. I had a very, very fortunate experience when I had my first son. I worked for a woman at Merck, and she was a mother. And she said to me, listen, when you come back from maternity leave, the last thing you're going to want to do is be here. So get through your head. Do not make any decisions. Come and go as you want to. You're not going to want to come back, but after a matter of a couple of weeks, you're going to want to come back. Mm-hmm. So, and I draw that parallel to when I was at another company with my second child, how different that experience was because you didn't have the support structure, you didn't have somebody that you felt comfortable you could talk to. Somebody that could teach you the cabbage rules. Somebody that could tell you how you're gonna throw up like multiple times your first trimester when you're in a meeting. You're gonna want to take a nap at 2:00 in the afternoon. I mean, it's the reality. And last time I checked, women are the only ones that can have babies. Mm-hmm. And corporations need to really figure out how they're going to embrace and nurture a woman who wants to have a 30 to 40-year career. Mm-hmm. And they have to figure out that on-ramp, off-ramp, all of that. And women play a huge role in supporting other women through those most amazing times that you can imagine. So.
Yeah, and it's... How many people have women? How many people? How many people have children? Is what I was going to say in the room. Okay, so all of us have been, or a lot of us have been through it. It is tough, but you can get through it when you do have support. And I think you mentioned earlier about women wanting to get off the the career track, but I think most women these days can't afford to, right? So it's not even an option for us, right? 2/3 of American households are headed by women. So we have to work. And so this idea that somehow we want to fully disengage, it's just not true. We don't want to do that. And I think a lot of us have discovered that it's very difficult once you disengage for long periods of time to re-enter at the same level and with the same respect and regard and position as when you left. So it's really not wise even to think about disengaging. And the reason the numbers are low in the executive ranks are not because we don't have the commitment or we don't have the passion or the desire. It's because the opportunities seem to shrink for us for all kinds of reasons. And I want to talk to you two about how you overcame the statistic, right? Because you are unique. You are one of the 13% in a Fortune 500 company that have survived. And there has to be tips and techniques and things that you do and don't do to progress. So give us your impression of that. Actually, you want to go first?
Well, first I convinced myself that the fact that I was a woman is an advantage. That's just the way I operate. I have many friends in this room, You've seen me operate, the good, bad, and the ugly. I started with the good, though. And I tell myself the fact that I am who I am is actually an advantage, and they're lucky to have me. This is literally how I enter the room. Because
And it's apparent, too, right? She enters the room like, I own it. Yeah, I love that.
The second thing is I convince myself that I have a lot of options. I'm not in jail here. And that gives you a certain freedom of operation, of thinking. I also tell myself that nobody thinks like I do. Therefore, I am unique, and I have something special to offer that nobody else will bring in the room. Then comes the speaking up, like giving the totally different viewpoint, and I convince myself that that's actually a service to the corporation. You're seeing a theme here. I'm very positive with myself. I hope not delusional. This is where you have to have, when we talk about support system, you have to have all kinds of people in your support system. There are people in this corporation that will call me and say, what was that all about? Let's talk about it so that you're modulated. And then I'm like, you know what? If I make a mistake, it's okay. I'm going to learn and make new mistakes. And that, therefore, I have said to the CEO of this corporation on a mistake, I'm like, look, you know, this is good because I learned, and now I can make sure nobody else makes the mistake, and it makes the corporation better. Sorry, so super positiveness, support system. When bad things happen, not freaking out. This is very important because it's easy to go, oh my God, and you know, kind of freak out. Now, I cry, by the way. A lot of you know that I have Visine, a mini Visine in my purse. I've been known to tell my admin to make sure nobody comes into the bathroom because I'm having a cry and Visine moment. And I don't want evidence. But then I come back out and I try to be generous to me. Did I try the best I knew how? That is all I owe. I am not perfect, or I wouldn't be here. And so, did I have good intent? And did I try the best I knew how? And then that's the water that I put on the grass constantly. That's how.
It's good. It's very good. Karen.
Awesome. You know, she's getting at a key point that as a mother of two daughters, I think is super important, which is confidence. There is something that happens to girls in this middle school to high school age where society, teaching, I haven't quite figured it out, teaches them to be a whole less confident than what they are capable of. And hey, one of the big lessons that I have learned from a survival perspective is you have got to learn how to play the game. Men know how to play the game. They are confident. They walk into a room. They ask for the job. If they're turned down, they ask again. They're not afraid to put their hand up and express their opinion around something. And I think that's really important. I'm a huge believer in first impressions. I'm also a huge believer in if it's not working for you in either the person you work for, the job that you have, or the company you work for, make a change. Change. I mean, I left Merck for personal reasons because my husband had a better job. I went to Citibank. The only reason why I was at Citibank for the 3 years that I was there is because I worked for an awesome woman. It was not the right company for me. I have chosen jobs when coming to Dell or turned down jobs because I didn't like the person that I was going to work for. And I think you have to go in with the confidence that you are the best, you are the person that can go in and do that job. When Michael called me in India to offer me the CMO role at Dell, the first question that I asked him was, why me? You have so many other choices of great leaders at Dell. Why me? And he said to me, because you're the most customer-centric executive that we have at Dell. You know how to get things done, and you've had a great track record in marketing. And I can't find those three skills combined with anybody else. And I went, okay, that's pretty good.
That works.
Convinced me. But
Can I quote you on that?
Yeah, I mean, but my husband was like, "Why did you not think you were the right person for the job?" I'm like, I don't know. That's kind of how we're trained and nurtured. That we're always playing that underdog kind of role and that type of thing. And if there's one big message that I tell young girls and my daughters now is, play to win, man. Go for it. You are talented. You are smart. You are capable. You bring diverse sets of perspectives and skills. And if you're working for a company or for a boss that is not nurturing those types of things, you have a ton of choices these days, and you ought to take advantage of it.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. So these two ladies work at big companies. And for those that do work at big companies, we know that sometimes there's politics and sometimes there's bureaucracy and sometimes there's complexity, and you have to navigate all of that and still be confident and self-affirming and mentoring and all of those things. But how do you do it, really? I mean, it's something that I think discourages women more than men. I think you're right. I think men play the game, and they don't take it personally, and they ignore most of it and overcome the part they didn't ignore. And they do that through their networks and through just kind of faking it, right? So, talk to me about your experience at Dell, your experience at Intel, and how you would advise the women in the audience who work at big companies to deal with the politics of working at a big company. And if you want to use an example, that's good.
I actually think this is where women's natural skills really shine. I think women have this uncanny ability to kind of sit back, take a view of all of what's going on, pull people together of diverse backgrounds and different perspectives, ultimately get to the right answer, which is a better answer. So I think women's ability to collaborate. Hey, I am a huge believer that the world today would be a very different place if we had more female leaders running the country.
Yes. Yes.
Running the
companies,
corporations.
Yes.
Hats off to the women, Christine Lagarde and Angela Merkel and, Secretary of State Clinton, she was running, and, not to get into any kind of politics, but, if you read the New York Times Sunday article and the interview that was in the Times around what is happening in this country from a division perspective, women just would not allow those types of things to happen. And I think that's true in corporations. I think the best corporations and the most successful corporations are ones that are constantly reinventing themselves. They're putting politics behind. They're focusing on the customer. They're trying to figure out how do you lean into technology in a big way to really transform things. And I think you have to have the courage and the tenacity at times to be able to call bad behavior and crap on the carpet and go, that's not what we're about. I personally have never done it. Well, I should say never. I don't try to do it in a public setting that will get people men offended. But there's very, very, very strategic ways through very, very strong relationships that you can build with men that you can cut through all of that kind of political stuff.
I fully agree. Again, I also tell myself it's the same politics for everybody. It's the same bureaucracy for everybody. It may feel different, but it's the same for everybody. We have unique skills. Not to get into, I want to be careful, but when we apply ourselves, we read a room very well. We read body, probably because we have to do it at home a lot, we read body language very well. I would encourage you to add intent. I usually try to go, okay, what's happening right now? Is there bad intent, or is this truly a disagreement or a different way of seeing things? I try to have I will vote. I am known for this. I will not work for you know what. I will vote with my feet. I don't deserve that, and I can't change the world necessarily in that, but I can do something about it myself. There are times when behaviors are not acceptable, and maybe not in the meeting. Though I've done it sometimes. I mean, there's this phrase at Intel that I loathe. It's like I don't disagree. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? You agree or you don't agree? That word is so loaded. It's like I reluctantly agree. What are you going to do? Pocket veto when we leave? So that one, I will stop a meeting at any level, and I will say, excuse me, which is usually, as Sheila knows, excuse me is signs of trouble coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, I'm just confused, right? I want to make sure that I fully understand. You agree or you don't agree? And sometimes you do it privately, and there are some ways to do it also with love. Nobody likes to be attacked. And human beings, our normal reaction is when we are attacked, what do? We counterattack. So making sure you have the right level of quote-unquote relationship and intimacy, or finding the person who does, and then having a loving conversation. And I have a rule. Once, okay, we talk. Twice, okay, we talk. Third time, we're going to battle. And you're not going to win. Because we will bring everything to bear to make sure that we take back our corporation without you. So use the power of the movement. But I think we just shouldn't accept certain of those things. But we also need to understand, I mean, big companies, like Intel is 100,000 people. We can't run it like a startup. That would be chaos, right? So when there are rules, I mean, Sheila is from our finance. She's the CFO of our largest and crazy Brazilian business. And she sat me down because, you know, you can imagine me in finance, right? Sheila! She's like, Aicha, did you ask yourself why we have this rule? Okay, what are you trying to accomplish and how are you being blocked? And then it becomes a collaboration, and how do we solve it together? And that's to close with the collaboration thing. Collaboration is about having a common goal, having conversations about it, and figuring out give, and then building upon that, which creates win-win for yourselves and the corporation. And I think we are uniquely suited to apply those ways of leading.
Excellent. All right, your turn to ask questions. This is my last one. So tell me how do you manage a relationship, professional relationship, with the males that are your peers versus the females? And I'm not trying to create an opposing view between the two, but I think you do treat male peers perhaps a little differently than your female peers, and maybe you don't. But what's your take on and your advice on how to manage relationships with male peers versus managing relationships with your female peers? Do you see a difference? Karen?
Well, first of all,
You don't have any female
peers. I don't have any female peers.
that is the issue.
You know, as the only woman that's on Michael's leadership team, it is, you know, it's a pretty interesting place. Now, I've been on it for 8 years. I would tell you, initially, it was tough because, as you know, his leadership team was a lot larger then. It was about, gosh, way too large, probably 15, 18 or so folks. Trying to build individual relationships with 15 to 18 people is nearly impossible. His leadership team now is 9 of us. And we've been together largely for a long time, you know, kind of, you know, give or take the you know, new EMC leaders that have come on. So building those kind of one-on-one relationships with them are key. I'm hugely sensitive to how I manage my team that are, you know, women, men, various ages, different, you know, ethnic backgrounds, and really trying to create kind of a equal playing field. When I first moved into the C-suite role, as CMO at Dell, 80% of my leadership team were women. And I have to tell you, it did not work. It did not work. And I found the fact that, honestly, we'd come into staff meetings once a week and we wouldn't get anything done for the first 15 or 20 minutes because they were all talking. And I'd be like, wow, they were all from the same background. They all were the same kind of profile. And I said, we got to mix this puppy up. And, we started bringing some men. We started bringing some folks that had worked in different markets around the world. So I believe a ton in the diversity of it. I think great leaders can facilitate an environment where you can feel like you can be themselves. And I think that there's a huge role that leaders play in making sure that everyone is heard as we get into conversations and dialogues, especially today where so many of them are working remotely and they're on the phone because they're traveling or that type of thing, and reaching out and going, hey, so-and-so, what do you think? Or what do you think type of thing.
So it's interesting. Nobody has ever asked me that question. So I had to think about it a little bit. I think that with men, peers, I focus a lot on the cause. What do we need to do? Da-da-da-da-da. I think that with women, I cross over the women cause too. So I think in some way, if I were really honest with myself, there's an extra level of intimacy, which is, by the way, good and bad, because that means that I'm going to be feeling comfortable telling you some difficult things too. So, and there are a few men who cross over because we have a personal relationship, but that's, I think, how I operate. But now I'm going to try and think about it more and observe what I actually do and ask some questions.
Are you comfortable with both? I mean, would you say there's a higher degree of comfort with males versus females, since there's so many of us?
I'm more comfortable with men. That's what I've had to deal with. It's just habit. Yeah, I'm more comfortable with men at work. But I'm working on it. We have a really, really tight, I see some of you here, a really tight group of ladies at Intel. The executive, there's this thing called Intel Network of Executive Women, and then our protégés. So I work on it more. And then the women that I become friends with, then it's just floodgate. We can talk about anything, anytime. No mask, no, I mean, some of these women in this room could go sell me out, right? And be like, ooh, let me tell you how crazy she can get. But if I'm honest, just in the normal, I mean, it's like habit, right? You are trained to be the only woman in the room and to deal with a bunch of men. And this is what happens as you get up the ranks. So it's almost automatic. And I've had, I won't say who, but I've had a lady that I was having a lot of trouble with. I didn't like her behaviors. I didn't like how she was treating me. I felt like we were actually or potentially on the verge of bringing the worst out of each other in C-suite meetings, which is not a good thing. And I'll out you. And Sheila sat me down and said, well, let's talk about this. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you participating? And where's your generosity? And have you asked yourself what that lady had to go through? The lady's a little bit older than me. Like, can you forgive her for some of this stuff? And then, last but not least, this was, do you really want to have a cat fight in front of the boys? I was like, no. And then switch that to generosity, and it's amazing. Very quickly, the relationship became a lot better and switched to intimacy.
It's so interesting because I've been so tuned in recently on where do I get my energy from? I get my energy from being around really, really smart women. I really do. I mean, I used to think that with men. And I think women have there's so much, they're insightful, they're genuine. And I also have found myself, you walk into an environment like this where there's 150 women in the room and there's just this natural kind of, wow, I can let the guard down. I don't have to pretend to be something that I'm not. Versus, I did it a couple of weeks ago. I walked into an event with a whole bunch of CIOs, and I was the only woman in the audience. And I went, oh, God, it just sucks the energy out of me, right? I mean,
Game face on.
yeah, game face on, right? And just how many hours a day can you have game face on? And so I think this is something that that I certainly wasn't aware of that feeling my first 10 to 15 years of working. I'm a lot more tuned into it now, maybe because you just get more selfish, or you pick and choose where you want to go. But you start to also, I'm very tuned into also, can you imagine the energy and the creativity that you could unleash if every woman could walk into a room and they weren't the only one?
Well said.
All right. Well, we have a room full of women here. So what are your questions? Hands up. We have a question here. You can come down to the mic. We'll also have a couple of mics roaming. Thank you.
Aicha's used to me asking her questions every time I come to one of these, so I'll address it to you, but it could be really for either of you. At least I've been at Intel for a long time, and in the last 3 years in particular, many of our really wonderful female leaders have left, and many of them have left to our competitors. And I just wanted to kind of, either one of your perspective, because I imagine it's probably happened at Dell maybe. Why? What aren't we doing here to keep these women who I've always looked up to, and it's hard to watch them go. So what are we doing?
Remember, I live through positivity. I'm actually trying to look, there's a lot of opportunity out there. I'm not joking. I know I'm decent, I'm pretty good at what I do, but I'm not that good that I should be getting about a phone call a week to go run something, to be on a board, you're inundated and flooded right now with opportunity. And so I'm trying to tell myself that the other side of the coin of Intel growing a lot of leaders, and a lot of female leaders especially, over the last few years, is that, frankly, they are targeted. And especially those that are in the valley, there's so much opportunity. I can understand how some of these opportunities, some ladies are just like, you know what, I'm going to go do that. So we had dinner with some senior ladies at my house about a month ago, and I said, maybe we need to start celebrating that we're a women leadership factory. We are. And people come to our company to get them. It's not realistic to think that we're going to keep all the talent here. By the way, when we looked at the comparison with male by grade level, it was split even. A lot of great males are also leaving. It's a very competitive industry right now. There's a lot of movement, and almost everybody's solving the same type of problems. They may solve it through hardware, through software, a combination of the two. And so I think we have to accept that this is going to happen. Now, we also talk to the ladies and say, what would it have taken? And frankly, and I know I'm going to get a hard time for this one, Intel ladies, forgive me, I think some of our ladies get very impatient. And in the name of diversity, they want it all, especially the younger ones, they want it all right now. And if the corporation is not doing it, or if they ask BK to do it and he's not doing it, well, he's just doing lip service to diversity. And I don't think that's right either. And then in a few cases, we, the women of Intel, dropped the ball. Somebody was in trouble, and we were all too busy, or we didn't take the time to pause and say, hey, we got trouble brewing over there. Who's gonna go find her? Who's gonna talk to her? Who's gonna help? So I would say it's those three categories. But in general, we also need to celebrate that, they are going to some great places in some great roles. And we need to celebrate that.
No, I've actually been wondering the same thing, because I have a huge amount of respect for Intel and the commitment that they've made to diversity, to the work that Lisa and team have done. I think that's exactly right. You go out and you look, hey, hey, anytime you try to recruit a diverse executive talent into a company like Dell, I'm telling you, the great companies have big arms around them. But there's also, this kind of pyramid effect that they're going to reach a certain point and they're going to either because they're, impatient or just because they kind of see the writing on the wall, they're going to go and leave. And it's also pretty crazy in the tech sector. You start to see these people that come back.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like, weren't you like working at Dell like 10 years or so ago and you're back? Or, you were at Intel and went to Microsoft and went to Pure and now you're back. I mean, it's a crazy kind of circuitous route that some of these folks are doing. I also think, hey, one of the unique advantages that we have at Dell is we're not in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. We're in Austin. And recruiters will tell you all the time there's kind of two cities that are super hard to recruit people out of, Austin and Seattle. I haven't quite figured out Seattle because it rains a lot.
Hey, do you ski?
No.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they ski in Seattle either.
No, but it's close by.
Oh, okay. Got it. But there is a unique, and I think the other unique thing that we have is a founder CEO that has an amazing stay power with 100,000 plus employees. And hey, I have honest conversations with Michael a lot about my career aspirations and the things that I want to go do. We recently had a conversation. I went to him and I said, hey, I want to do this. I'm thinking about this. I'm getting asked on boards. I just joined a second board. He was hugely supportive of it. So working for a person that you can also have those honest conversations and be honest around your career aspirations and the things that you want to do, I think also matters a lot.
Awesome. Next question.
What's on? Hi. I haven't fully formulated this question, so forgive me, but you guys both brought up being mothers, and so I think a lot of people in the audience mentioned being a mother. So just how have you gotten to where you're at in your career but still managed to balance the demands of motherhood and wanting to be present for your kids but also being really ambitious in your career? I know for me and a lot of my colleagues that's top of mind, and so just curious your thoughts on that.
I believe in some really basic things. I believe in being married to a great person that can support you and willing to kind of share in the responsibilities. I am a maniacal prioritizer, and I really try to kind of prioritize my life, 12 months out and on a rolling basis. I also believe a whole lot in you're going to mess some things up. And hey, I have scheduled holiday parties at my house right on top of band concerts, and other really super important things, and they're massive screw ups. And one of my favorite stories is I woke up on a Monday morning. My daughter said to me, "Are you going to be at my band concert on Wednesday?" I said, "Sweetie, screwed up. We have 70 people coming to our house for a holiday party." I could see the look in her eyes that I had massively disappointed her. I had the holiday party at my house. It started at 6:30. I welcomed everyone. I said, "The bar is full. We have a lot of food. I'm going to the band concert." And I left, and I went to the band concert. She did not know that I was coming. She kind of came into the audience. She saw me sitting literally right on the front row. And I knew by the look in her eyes that I had made the right decision. The other thing I would say is there is nothing better that you do in life than have children. Nothing better. And if you know you want to be a mom and you know it's something that you need to do, you need to do it. Because companies will wait, and your journey is a 40-year career, and you need to go do it. The other thing that I would say, too, if you're not working for a company that can give you the flexibility and the support that you need as part of it, you should go someplace else. Because it's part of that. Companies have got to step up and create flexible work environments. We work for companies that embrace technology. There's no reason in the world you can't work part-time out of your house, work from Starbucks, work from here, leave at 4 o'clock, type of thing. So these companies that are out there that think that it's all about 2 eyeballs and a nose for, 8 to 10 hours a day, they need to wake up and smell the roses. That is not those are not the kind of companies that women want to work for.
I fully agree. I think the support system, especially with your partner, is extremely important. I mean, every career decision on his side or my side, we've made together. And we've mapped out a little bit of what we think it would look like and feel like and whether we're okay with that. The second thing is, I think having a conversation with your children, if you're, as they get older, is important. It's actually easier when they're younger, but as they, as they start...
In some ways.
I have a mini-me at my house, and man, she's brutal. And so, no, we have to have conversations, right, about, the fact that I work, and even we have analogies on, she plays club soccer, and she's very competitive, so we have analogies about that. So she understands what we're dealing with together, and she's part of the decision-making. We had a nanny that was very, very part of the family system. And then we moved here. And my husband, because for us to move here from Portland, Oregon, Pacific Northwest, lady, I have to tell you about that. Yes. And also, nobody comes to bother you because they think it's raining. You're like, yeah, stay in, I don't know where, LA. Yeah. And so, to make a long story short, he decided his company wasn't going to transfer, like there wasn't a transfer opportunity. So we said, okay, that's good because California is complicated, so he'll take care of everything, the move, and blah, blah. Everything got settled, and we started discussing. By the way, you think children don't listen? They are constantly listening. Constantly. And so they started hearing about Dad going back to work, and in what capacity and what have you. And they asked for a family meeting. That's how we discuss things, usually on Sunday afternoon. And they said, we're hearing you talking about Dad going back to work, and we don't like the idea. We have been nanny children our whole life. At school, it's very clear, the dad club, the mommy club, the partner club, and the nanny club. And Dad has been really involved at school. He's even room parent. He takes us every day. He picks us up. He's at every soccer game, every practice, and everything. And so now we know that it's going to cost some money because Claudia doesn't do anything. Is not doing as much. That's the nanny. And so we are willing for, to part ways with Claudia, which was going to happen at some point or another. And then, and then I go, who's going to do your hair? And you have to just understand, I can show you pictures of my daughter's hair. I mean, this thing it terrorizes me. I'm not good at it. I don't like it, and I don't want her to look bad. She goes, Mommy, I'm sure we can find a hair salon and put it in the schedule, and this is really not a determining factor. So Claudia went back to Portland, Oregon. And it's been 6 months, and we're surviving. Everything is okay. People are fed.
Hair looks good.
Yeah.
They survive, right? The other thing that I would tell you too, and I'm a little bit older, but it is pretty interesting the comment that Lisa made about women hit kind of that 40, 45 that have dropped out of the work environment and they want back. And it's really hard to get back. It's really hard to get back. And especially in the tech sector where things are changing so rapidly. And so I would just encourage you to think, longer term around what it is that you want to do before you just, hey, we've all had that surrender, white flag, I can't do it anymore kind of moments. The other thing I would tell you is, and I don't know if it's just my family, maybe, I'm sure yours probably say the same thing. I just think I'm a chiller mom because I work. Mm-hmm. And you don't sweat the really stupid small things that a lot of stay-at-home moms really, really sweat. And then their kids start to get independent and they want to do their own thing. And, we've all heard the helicopter mom stories. And I see a pretty different type of parenting that goes on with girls, with moms at work and moms that haven't worked, and just a different confidence in girls that are raised by moms at work.
That's a really good, honest point. And to add to it also, coming back is so difficult. It's better to power through. And I think it's Lisa, I think it's you a few years ago who also said, you know, if you power through, just from an affordability standpoint, you also have more options in terms of your support system.
Yes, get help. It's okay to get help. It's okay to get help. All right, so we have a question here. You have a question too. You have a mic, yes? Oh, you're handing mic. Okay. You're doing a great job handing mic. There's one right there, and there's a question up there. Yes.
Hi, Johanna
Hi,
Lyman.
Johanna.
I have a mini me too. I commiserate. And but you talked about two what I think are kind of ninja level skills for women succeeding at high levels: positivity and generosity. Do you have any practical tips for how to cultivate those if they're not your natural come from?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to reveal this. So I have a coach. It's a long story, but one of the things that are required if you want him to remain your coach is you agree on, at the beginning of the cycle, 10 questions. As you are graduating through his system, 5 questions that you write down and you agree with him. And he's a total life coach. It's not, I mean, it starts with work, but it becomes very quickly personal because there are a lot of parallels. And so we agree on the 5 questions at the beginning of the year. And I have to email him every day. I don't know that he reads it, with a score 0 to 10. And I'm judging myself. Nobody else sees the email. It's just me and myself, right? One-on-one with myself. And if it takes more than 3 minutes, I know that I'm struggling. And it's hard. But one of them is, did I do my best to be positive today? And it's habit forming. And then when you're not, it also forces you into that, hey, pause, why is this taking more than 5 minutes or 3 minutes to fill out? Because you just copy and paste, respond. And the second thing on generosity, I just remind myself of how many countless people have been generous with me. I mean, the odds of me arriving in Paris, right? And Paris, I mean, in addition to everything else in Paris, you also get the social strata, right? Are you speaking Parisian French? And are you size 1.5? And the jeans and the high heels? And are you in the right parties and what have you? So I constantly remind myself of all the people who have helped me in very difficult situations and who have nurtured me. And so when you kind of, because when I think about family, I'm like, oh, but that's family. So I think outside of family, and then that I hope to, I try every day my best to say, hey, you have to give back. So it's in that, what happened to me and how can I do it for others?
Awesome. All right, we have time for one final question, and I think we have a hand here. Do you have a mic? And then we're going to do the raffle pick. So, folks, get ready for that.
Before I ask my question, I just have to tell a story from last week. I was talking with my 13-year-old daughter, and I'm considering a position. And I told her, listen, this is going to be really hectic for me. And no, I might not be able to come for dinner every day, and it's going to be crazy. And she was like, that's fine. You know, you'll be happier and everything will be better. I'll make dinner and everything will be fine. And that's part of raising a girl that sees, you know, they benefit from seeing working mom. And now for the question, you know, I'm a project manager today, so I'm trying to make the leap to the next step. And it feels like it's almost a trap because you're good at what you are, so people will take you to do the same thing. How do you make the leap to the next step?
Hey, I'm a huge believer that especially early on in your career, you need to move across as much as you need to move up. And you got to get a broad kind of set of skills. And you got to meet a whole lot of people that are going to then surprisingly be the advocates for you to get you to the next level. At some point you have to choose. But if you've been in that kind of same career, kind of functional area for years and years and years, you know, just your opportunity to kind of move up and everything beyond that is going to be tough. The second thing I would say is man, as you move up in a company, it really is about the leadership skills, the people skills, the influence skills, the innovation kind of skills that you have, and a whole lot less about the functional expertise that you have. So where you can find those places to demonstrate that, work for people that, I'm a huge believer in this, work for people that have a track record of promoting people. All you got to do is go out and ask peers and colleagues, hey, does that guy promote? Does she promote? And you know who's promoting and who's not promoting. It's an amazing thing what peers will tell you.
Also, sometimes you're that good and people get addicted to you. So you kind of have to cut off the addiction. The best way to do that is, first of all, declare your intention in a very positive, non-threatening, to start, of course. At some point, you vote with your feet. After you did your research, like she said, create a successor. Create a mini you. You enable them, you promote them, you give them the spotlight, you step back, and that next conversation about your rotation is going to be a hell of a lot easier. And if it's not, I think you know you did the best you knew how. It is time to vote with the feeties.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming. We've got a little more time out in the networking area. There's some drinks, there's a little food left, so feel free to do that. Thank you for coming. We'll see you at the next event. And again, big hand to Karen and Aicha. Awesome.